You're listening to the Fire in the Hole podcast with Richard and Jason, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
If you like the show, you can help us out by supporting us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and by rating and reviewing us on iTunes.
If you want to be a guest on the show, or you want to get in touch, drop us a line at fireintheholepodcast@gmail.com. That's fireintheholepodcast@gmail.com.
Enjoy the show.
Today, David Daneman joins the show. David has an awesome webcomic called The Danemen, and it's fucking hilarious. He rotoscopes his own face into every frame so that every character looks exactly like him. It's fucking brilliant. Go check him out on Instagram and Twitter at The Danemen, TheDanemen. He also has a podcast called the Podcomics Webcast, where it's webcomic artists talking to other webcomic artists. Very interesting, very fun if you are interested in webcomics. So on the show, he talked about recently moving to Montreal, all about his webcomic and podcast, and Trump snuck his way in there. Sneaky ass Trump did it again. So without further ado, here is the very funny, ridiculously talented David Daneman on Fire in the Hole.
I make the webcomic The Daneman. If you've read my comics, you already know what they're like. If you haven't, why not? My comics are gag strips. I don't worry about characters or storyline. I don't know about Bannon. Bannon, actually, if you look into his backstory, it's pretty fascinating because he is like ex-military, and he made his fortune from Seinfeld. Do you know, like that's?
I do not know the
that's
story.
Where all of Bannon's money comes from. Is he was an entertainment lawyer briefly, and at one point in time, he decided to take like dividends in a production company that ended up making Seinfeld, and so he's just made for life because
Just happened to have these.
it was an
shares.
accident that he got paid off in Seinfeld shares,
Wow.
and then Seinfeld ended up being what it is, and so Steve
just-
Bannon has been brought to us by Seinfeld.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Isn't he anti-Semitic? He's anti-Semitic, probably. I feel
Yeah,
like
I'm going to
he's-
just go ahead and say yes.
I'm gonna
I
say that-
don't even know, but yeah.
He's probably. I want to believe that's probably true.
The fact that this guy, because I'm going to say he is an anti-Semite, has to sign a check from Seinfeld like every day of his life for like 13 cents.
It's like burning his ass
Yeah.
every day. Like, God damn it!
This is what's driving him crazy is the
They run
Seinfeld
everything.
checks.
I'm gonna help Trump become president.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that's
also
weird.
produced the Anthony Hopkins Titus Andronicus film.
Jesus, I did not hear about this
His
at all.
background is really entertainment,
Okay,
and
which it doesn't look like at all, right? He looks like he's
does he
imperial,
look? No.
imperial tobacco VP.
yeah,
Kinda
yeah. He
dude.
dresses like me actually, like
Does he?
long shorts and a flannel, and then his face, of course.
Yes, and then of course there's his face.
Face.
Our next episode will be.
He looks
devoted-
like a guy waking up on the beach.
a little bit.
Oh, what time is it?
Yeah, some Nick Nolte vibes. Definitely some Nick Nolte vibes.
Fat Nolte.
They go to the same beach to pass out.
Yeah, going to my sleeping beach.
They wake up next to each other. So is that? I mean, you seem to know a little bit about this stuff. Do you keep abreast of politics, or you
Yes.
just kind of actively?
I listen to the NPR politics blog religiously. It's an interesting time to be alive, isn't it?
It very much is.
Sure is.
Jokes are real, I think, is
Yeah.
our slogan.
I don't even know what to think anymore. I actually am working on a screenplay of the 2016 election because the whole thing seemed scripted to me.
It did seem like that.
Well, the day after the first debate, which was hosted by Fox News, Trump is center stage, asked the first question, which he hits out of the park on a Rosie O'Donnell joke.
Did he start? Did he open with that?
That was the very first line.
Wow.
And what's even weirder, is Jon Stewart retired the next day. And that always stuck with me. I was like, is Jon Stewart running the Trump campaign?
Because, I mean, this would have been, I mean, possibly the time he would have been needed the most, right?
Uh-huh. You could say that, yeah.
If ever his services were needed.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been honing a New Jersey impression for most of his career, which was basically
It's true.
a Trump impression.
Pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much. Yeah, when he gets New Jersey-ish. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a weird one. So Stewart retires. He opens with Rosie O'Donnell,
that happened in 24 hours.
putting her on blast.
And
At-
he'd already done his golden elevator speech where he opened with Mexicans are rapists and murderers, and some of them are good people.
That's- I'm sure. He said, "I'm sure."
Some of them,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I don't know personally, but I'm sure.
I'm sure. I mean, the law of averages, states that somewhere there must be a good one. But let's face it, they're not sending us their best.
Yeah.
I love that they're not sending us
They're
their
not.
best.
There's like a relocation program in Mexico. They're like, okay, who wants to go to America? Rapist? All right, you're in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Murderer? You're in.
Yeah.
Engineer? Nah.
You're sitting across from the immigration guy, and you're like, I don't have to tell you this, Pedro. You're not bad enough. You don't suck. You haven't committed any crimes. I'm sorry. Come on, man. I'll kill someone right now. Sorry, it's too late. Sorry. Try next year, okay? Try to work on your resume, and then we'll see. Because we don't like to send our best. We like to keep them here. Who was it? Nigel Farage? Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Do you know?
He was the Brexit guy.
Yes.
Honestly, his last name, like Farage, Drumpf, and Rodham, all sound like J.R.R. Tolkien-esque
Pretty much.
dragons.
They do.
So I was thinking, like, these are just dragons in human form.
Maybe.
Drumpf and Farage.
I like that. Yeah, definitely. Farage, interestingly, sounds foreign. And he's kind of all about, like, get the foreigners out. So I always thought that was kind of ironic. But there's this brilliant comic that from Britain, Stuart Lee. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
I think you particularly would really like him because
Okay.
he's very cerebral and very, like, you have to wait to see where it's going to go. And at first you're not sure, and then he'll get you there. But he's very, very clever. And this is years before the whole Trump thing.
Mm-hmm.
He, the Farage Brexit sort of movement
Yep.
was taking up steam. This is before actual Brexit. This is still Farage kind of.
He
what's
never
the party?
held office, right?
I think he has.
Okay.
I think he has. Yeah.
Because I don't know what his position was. I feel
think
that
he was like a political. Yeah.
Well, like he was leading a vote, but I don't know that he was elected.
Prior to that, I think he had. Would you mind looking?
Let's
that
call
up?
them Tories. Is it the Tory party?
No.
No.
No, I feel like they were possibly even further out.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
British
Anyway,
parties have funny names.
yeah, like Labour. Like,
Gets me
are
every
you voting
time.
for Labour? Yeah, I guess I am. I think they're the leftists.
Jeremy Corbyn?
Corbyn. What was it? The other guy, the mayor, the weirdly funny mayor. Anyways,
Boris Johnson?
Boris Johnson, that's it. So Farage, he does this great bit about Stuart Lee, does this great bit about Nigel Farage about how he would make these very Trump-like statements years before, and he'd say things like, there was some sort of influx of Bulgarians to the UK at some point,
Okay.
and he said something to the kin of, this was beautifully composed. He said, and I paraphrase, Bulgaria should really keep its like talented and skilled people. They really shouldn't be coming here because Bulgaria needs them. And
See, that's a nice way of saying
it would be a shame to rob such a fine nation of its skilled labor. Their home country needs them more than we do.
Right.
It was called xenophilia, right?
But you got to. That's beautiful. Did you find anything on Nigel?
Yes, British politician, broadcaster, and political analyst who was the leader of the UK Independence Party from,
The UKIP. That's it.
UKIP.
UKIP.
from 2006 to 2009 and again from 2010 to 2016. Since 1999, he has been an MEP for South East England.
Okay. So definitely he's been a politician, and but the interesting thing is, so he takes that comment from Farage and he keeps repeating it, but he keeps jumping back a couple of centuries or 100 years at a time in English history.
Mm-hmm.
So then he starts with the Indians. He's like, Indians should really not come here and invent us like a cuisine, an international cuisine. Really, they're more needed back in India. And he keeps going. At some point, he's at like amoeba. Like he's talking about like these like amphibious creatures shouldn't be coming to our shores because they're really needed in the water. But it's almost because I was aware of Stuart Lee, I kind of got to see. I have to believe that Trump's people, or at least Trump himself, is a student of Farage or has seen Farage in action.
I think they are a student of so many things. I really do think that they look to Hollywood a lot. Just the other day, I was thinking that if this administration were a film plot, it would be Die Hard 3.
Is that the
That's
one with
Jeremy Irons?
Jeremy Irons.
It's the one where
Remind me?
It turns out they're making John McClane run everywhere. It's like go here, then go here, then go here, then go here. But really, they're robbing Fort Knox.
Right. So it's all these goose chases.
Yeah. It's like, okay, transgenders aren't allowed to serve in the military in any capacity now. And we're all running around, chasing our outrage.
North Korea.
Yeah. North Korea.
Don Jr., Ivanka, all that stuff.
Well, okay. But there's like the Scaramucci of last week, the man who held his job for 10 days.
Dude,
Those
the one guy I wanted to
happen
see stay on
days where there's a much bigger story.
Uh-huh.
And it's just their controversies are sexy. We get distracted by how easy it is to laugh or to defend if you're on that side of whatever. But we're missing the fact that they colluded with Russia.
Just because this, like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think the word is to conspire. I think
that's the term. What he does is what Trump does as well is very familiar. Like now you brought up Die Hard. It reminds me of movies like Total Recall and a bunch of other.
Like all the Paul Verhoeven films.
Movies where people used body shields all the time. Like they would consistently just.
He is every 80s action film villain. Like think of. What is it? Land of the Dead, where Dennis Hopper
is in his tower.
Yeah,
I forgot
that's
about
fucking
that
Trump.
That is Trump.
The guy in Total Recall,
Biff.
The guy in RoboCop, Biff.
Yeah,
like he's not the guy in Karate Kid. That's the only person he isn't. He's every corporate villain was warning us of the eventual. Dead Zone.
It's true. Oh my god! But except Martin Sheen was like way more eloquent and.
He was more convincingly Christian.
Right. And he was kind of trying to hide the whole thing, right? Like he was kind of going to go crazy on everyone once he had them.
Yeah.
But Trump just came in and like, hey, like this is me from the get-go.
Yeah. I mean, it is brilliant. If you're going to be Trump, you have to be Trump from the first second.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked because the things he says on microphone end your career when you say them off microphone.
Right.
That has been the tradition my entire life, is that if you leaned over and said, I don't really know about these people, that ends your career. But he just says first thing like, okay, so I don't really know about these people. I mean, we're going to stop everybody coming in until we figure out what's going on. That was the second half of his plan.
Right.
Until we figure out what's going on.
Yeah, until somebody tells me what to do next, or until I decide what I want to do next, or... Yeah, it's all kind of like, it's all improv. Like, have you watched any of his interactions in wrestling? Like, like all of his cameos in wrestling?
No, I was aware that the president of the United States was once on professional wrestling.
Yes.
But I...
This is Idiocracy now, by the way. But,
yeah,
no, it's really good watch now. And by good, I mean horrific. But it's really an interesting watch now because I watched it when he was
Linda
on.
McMahon, doesn't she hold a cabinet position?
I think he tried to give her one, but she didn't take it or something.
I think it was. She was put up for a position.
Yeah, he definitely.
He's still filling them. He's got like 700 positions left to nominate.
Well, the McMahons are like a shoo-in for they come from the same. They've got the same blood running in their veins. Like
what is that blood?
Their entertainment.
Gold paint.
Sharpie juice, whatever it is that they put in Sharpies.
You know that he used to sign his name with a gold Sharpie, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You can't make that shit up.
You got to watch his wrestling stuff because you're like, oh, this is going to be cool, like prequel stuff. No, he looks exactly the same. He has the exact same hair, and he acts exactly the same. There is no character. He's kind of on all the time.
He's just him.
Yeah. And
except
I'm not going to make
somebody with a chair.
Yeah. I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but I'm going to make a Deep Space Nine analogy here.
I will not get it.
All right, excellent.
I'm going to warn you.
So there's a character on it who's really nice all the time, and he's super jovial and really friendly. And then somewhere years down, like 6 seasons later, he has like some sort of seizure, and they bring him to the hospital or to the med bay, and they find out that he has this chip in his tooth or in his brain that's there in case he gets tortured. It's supposed to kick in and like stimulate his pleasure centers, and he's had it on the entire time because he can't stand
That's awesome.
being around all these people because he's exiled from his home world, right? And then you get to see him for this period of this one episode kind of losing it, like dark circles under his eyes are like, fuck you, like he hates everybody. But I feel like Trump is on something, that like he's turned something on. He performed a spell, or I'm even doing his hand gestures now. He communed with some demon, and the spell is going. Like he's never off. That's who he is. There's no separation between him and this cartoon character that he apparently is, because he's always like this. And now watching a video with Stone Cold Steve Austin at the height of his popularity, doing all of his catchphrases and yelling in his face with the microphone.
What were those catchphrases?
Things like you some bitch, like give me a hell yeah.
Okay. Give me a you some bitch.
Oh, and what?
What?
That. He started that in the...
His catchphrase was, what?
Yeah. You try to be talking back to him, and you go, what? And then the crowd started doing it.
Yeah.
He's been gone for 10 years from professional wrestling, and occasionally when
people still say what?
They still do it. Other people are trying to cut a promo, and the whole crowd is still going, what?
Really?
What? But after every word, right? Anyway, I digress. Definitely worth seeing, especially in light of that little controversy there where they put CNN. Somebody put CNN over.
See,
like,
that also happened on a very important day.
Did it?
Yeah, I think like the director of the FBI got fired or something that day. Something we should have fucking paid attention to.
Was that on when he got rid of Comey? Was that the same?
Yeah, it's approximately the same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. But last week, Reince Priebus, Sean Spicer, and Anthony Scaramucci. Actually, that couldn't be that Spicer and Scaramucci lost their job in the same week, could it?
I think it could be
10 days.
10 days.
Who's the press correspondent now? Is it what's her name, Huckabee Sanders?
I think they put in some weird guy, some bald dude.
Oh, Steve Miller.
Is that him? Yeah, the guy who sounds really. He looks really dim, but he talks with like this confidence.
Looks so hate-filled.
Does he? He looks like he's gonna.
He's running on pure hatred.
He's gonna ram his car into an ice cream parlor.
As fast.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's aged him twice.
His hair fell out.
He's actually 15.
He's 30. That kid is 30.
Yeah, he's 30 and he looks like he's like pushing 50.
50?
Yeah.
Where do you find these people?
The internet, Reddit.
Reddit? You think he's got a subreddit going somewhere?
Yeah, are the Donald.
Yeah. I need the best people. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like you don't want to pay attention. You run out of energy to pay attention to this stuff, but it's just there every day. And it seems like it's made the rest of the world a little crazy too.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. Why wouldn't it?
But like I'm talking even away from Trump, regular people.
It made me crazy. I felt like the bar for sanity had been lowered. Once there was an actual crazy person in the highest office of one of the most powerful countries in the world, that like, for me, I could be crazier. It's like, who's to say that I'm crazy anymore? Maybe I'm just acting presidential.
Maybe. Yeah, I could just see people everywhere at their cubicles going like...
Put my feet up on the bus, and I'm like, just being presidential.
breaking all the rules at this point.
That's right. There are no rules anymore.
Yeah.
Up is down.
No, but I mean, it does have a crazy effect on you. You'll be having a conversation, you're arguing your point, and then like the other person could just say, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's real. And before you could be like, well, it is real, and if you're saying that, everyone here, right, is ridiculous. Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, come on, man, that's not real. Now you don't have that power anymore. Now the person can nullify your researched or thorough point with like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. What's your favorite one? Let's agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
I'll be the judge of that.
I'll be the judge of that is a good one. It depends. Who knows?
Sylvie hates that shit.
He likes to torment his girlfriend with whenever she just tells him something. He'll be like, well, who's to say?
How about we'll see? We'll see.
Exactly.
Fair enough. That's Bill Burr's conversation ender, apparently.
Yeah.
Do you listen to comics? Do you like comics at all?
I love comics. Yeah.
Yeah, not comics, but comedians.
No,
I
I'm
mean.
comedians.
Yeah.
Listen to a lot of them. Yeah. No, I grew up back in the heyday of Comedy Central, back when it was just videos of stand-ups.
Oh, that's right. At the beginning, it was just that.
So I had a really good comedy education, and
Have you ever done some yourself?
a little bit, very little. I still all my friends here in town are all comedians, so they're the people I like to hang out with the most because they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hence Wasim.
well, Wasim I just met actually.
Okay.
He has a friend named Jonathan Borello who I met in South Korea. Wasim and I both missed each other. Like
Okay.
we had friends in common in South Korea because of the stand-up scene there, and yeah, I don't know. Wherever I go, I run into comedians.
Where are you from originally?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know nothing about Kansas City.
That's fine.
The Chiefs.
Uh-huh.
Is that the team?
Kansas City Royals. That might
Royals.
be. Let's go with baseball.
Baseball. You like baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only sport that I know what's going on and care.
Okay.
I don't watch it on television because I can't care. But if I'm there, it's a great time. I like beer, I like hot dogs, and I like when baseball is happening while I'm having those two things.
Sure. That sounds like it goes together.
Yeah.
Would you say that you're I don't know how to
An
put
American, yes. You don't need to sugarcoat it.
this. No. I was going to say, do you feel that you hold typical views and attitudes and behaviors of someone that would issue out of Kansas City?
Kansas City is a city.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I would say city people tend to be on the left.
Mhm.
They tend to hold more progressive views.
Even in Kansas.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And Kansas is a good place to say even in Kansas because it is a reliably red state. But there's two counties which are reliably blue, and they are the one which the city is in and the one that is the suburb of the city which I grew up in. I don't know that shaped my views as much as my parents, who are blue people, I suppose. Yeah.
Like full on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Full on blue.
Well, you'll have to excuse our maybe our Canadian perspective because
I've known Canadians for a long time.
we have how would you characterize our outlook when it comes to America?
Comparable.
Comparable?
No, your center is left of our center, but
Okay.
that's like just our fault, like our error that like Reagan dragged the center to the right. I think that most modern democracies have a center around where your center is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're a little socialist. We're aware of it.
and I'm a socialist. I like socialism. I like equality. I like working. I like workers' rights. I like rights movements. All those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what brought you here?
A gal.
Ah,
Or do you mean to Montreal?
let's do both.
Okay. Both.
Okay.
It's still a girl.
Yeah.
No, I married a girl from British Columbia, and the rent was too damn high.
Okay.
That old cherry.
I have all the information.
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
It is.
It's like
I
a
was-
whole generation of people who can't afford the
Well,
rents.
that's just.
That were born there.
I think that's just North America right now. I don't know that anybody's buying a house.
Right.
That's not Chinese. Yeah. No, these are look this up. This is happening. I didn't just pull a trumpet like
No, it's very
China,
familiar.
China.
That's what everybody in Vancouver says.
Right. Well,
It's-
they keep trying to come up with laws and stuff. I think to offset it, but it's not.
Like it's hard to come up with laws.
Yeah.
They keep trying, but their wallets keep getting too heavy.
Yeah.
Well, they keep like trying to tax foreign buyers and stuff like that, but
Right.
apparently that's not having an effect.
I think it might be too late at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Too little, too late.
Hmm.
So Montreal.
Yeah.
And did you stop anywhere along the way as you?
Well, technically, I went to a wedding in Minneapolis, but that was for a weekend.
Okay. No, I meant I guess
Live anywhere?
live anywhere before here.
Before Canada?
So you went Kansas,
Kansas to South Korea.
South Korea.
Met a gal. Did a year in Barcelona. Did a summer in Ankara, Turkey. Moved back to South Korea. Moved to Vancouver. Moved to Montreal.
As
So
one does.
Yeah, I left America during the Bush administration,
Ooh.
and I haven't been back.
You missed the Obama years.
I did. I mean, I kept up with them.
Of course.
But
You didn't live. So you went from, next time you set foot in your hometown.
I mean, I've been home. I just
Okay.
haven't lived there.
Okay. Well, that's pretty crazy. Yep, it's beer burp time, everybody.
Yeah, right. I don't know if you guys are picking this up.
We should have we talk about all the time about
Sure.
mastering the beer burp on the mic, kind of sending it off to the side. We should have little lounge music that kicks in, and we'll be right back with our program as we go on a tear of burping, beer burping. So, okay. I really think we should talk about your comic, man,
Yeah, let's do that.
because that's pretty cool.
That's what I do.
Yeah. How does this give us the genesis, man? How does this even start?
Film student.
In Kansas?
Yeah, University of Kansas. And the way I like to tell the story is self-flattering. All the other students, they were really crazy to get a camera in their hands and run out the door and start shooting. And I was the person who took pre-production seriously. So I would write like a script, and I would storyboard it before we shot. And while I was storyboarding, I thought, if this looked good, maybe you could use this to raise the money to make a film.
That's a crazy idea.
Yeah, so I started then in 2001 a film came out called Waking Life, which is Richard Linklater. It is a animated film which is rotoscoped.
Uh-huh.
When I saw it, I thought, this rotoscoping. Yeah, no, it blew my mind a little bit. It's a film which thinks it's deeper than it is, but as a 21-year-old, I was sufficiently stoned, I'm sure, when I saw it, and it blew my mind. So I experimented with rotoscoping, and I thought, this is the way to make the storyboards look better. I made the storyboards with photographs.
That's brilliant.
And that was 2005. Actually, also,
Scanner
Sin
Darkly?
City came out. No, it was 300 and Sin City.
Right.
When those films came out, it was kind of so you don't even need a location.
Right. Yeah. Sky Captain in the World Tomorrow.
To a lesser extent, but yeah, that's a cool pull.
Yeah. Well, that was like the first time a movie was made almost completely in that type of way.
Yeah. So you need actors and you need costumes and props, but beyond that, we're gonna
put it in post.
Yeah. Actually, what's funny is Sky Captain owes a lot to the old Max Schlesinger Superman cartoons.
Right.
Max Schlesinger invented rotoscoping, and those Superman cartoons were rotoscoped.
And,
Boom.
And Steve Bannon has.
He probably has
stock.
a little piece of that, right?
It's another brilliant investment. Fuck you, Steve Bannon. Okay, so rotoscope. Okay, so you first of all you realize, and that's great. We would have gotten along in film school. That the pitch will affect not only the reception but the potential, capital that you're going to be able to raise or resources that you're going to be able to draw to your
Because the
project.
films I wanted to make were all world-building films.
Okay.
My favorite films are Brazil by Terry Gilliam or City of Lost Children by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. And I, at that time, had no faith in being able to raise the kind of money that it would require. So I was like, maybe
Gilliam has trouble doing it, right?
He does. And that's sad. He finally finished Don Quixote, by the way.
Did he finish it?
Yeah.
He wasn't hit by lightning or something?
No. He finished it, which is great because it was kind of his white whale.
It really was. It fucking. I thought it was going to kill him. I
Yeah.
really did. But I mean, no. So you were really into that, world building, like you said, really creating your own universe.
Yeah, Tim Burton was a big influence on me as a child. He hasn't made a good movie since 1995, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But and Star Wars, all the films where it's just immersive, where it doesn't explain the world to you, it shows you a larger world.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all love this, to be perfectly honest. Pixar films do it all the time,
kind of do it, yeah.
So, and this was actually before digital. So when I studied film, we worked in 16 millimeter. We had these Bell and Howell cameras, which were spring loaded.
Mm-hmm.
So
Bolex, etc.
Yeah, and it just at that time there was a lot of, I don't know, maybe I was just young and didn't feel like I had what it took to make film. Also, here's the other thing. I'm a director. I'm a dictator. So when it comes to group projects, I really didn't want to collaborate. So if you look at what I do now, I do every single part. I became my own film crew.
Mm-hmm.
so as to not make anybody else upset with me, I became the writer, the director, the editor, the costumer, the actor, the whole thing. I think a lot of people do that when they don't have the money for a crew.
Yeah, or just have a certain workflow, like your brother, for instance, has been known to work that way. Yeah. He's also very hyper concentrated on what he wants, and unless he meets very specific kind of people that can work with him, he'll kind of be frustrated by the process, right? And
yeah, he's a musician, and oftentimes it's a struggle to get a group of people who are as dedicated as he is, so he ends up kind of taking on a lot of that work.
I've worked under a person like that in music, and it's very frustrating to work with a person like that.
Yeah.
So,
and to be that person, right? So
well, I actually love to work with people, but I would require that they recognize my authority, and just.
So you'd love having people work for you.
I would be happy to direct a film.
Right.
100%.
Which you have not done.
Like some student films.
Like student films, okay. But that's something that you wouldn't mind doing for a living.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna start screenwriting very soon. I think that's probably the path I will use to get in.
The country's going down the drain because of the special interests. We need someone in the White House who's so rich, doesn't have to listen to anybody.
What's that?
The senator was having a fundraiser.
When I'm in office, it's going to be like the 80s again.
Yeah, so it's one of those movies that didn't need to be very smart, but it ended up having one of possibly the most sustainable time travel ideas. Like, it was almost like it held up, because you couldn't go into the future. You could only go into the past, because the future is not written yet, which I thought was interesting as an idea. And so the time cops, they go back to find other people that have misused the technology to go back and enrich themselves. And the movie opens with him going back to like 1929 at the cusp of the Great Depression, and he finds one of these time bandits who's positioned himself as a like tycoon. And you see the guy like sitting in his office with the like black and white shoes and the slick back hair.
Yeah.
He's reading the paper, and then Jean-Claude like jumps through the time thing, and he arrives, and he's like, "You're coming with me." And the guy's like, "Yeah, God damn it, you caught me." And then he has his bag to collect all the things that are not supposed to be in the timeline. And one of the things he picks up is a mini disc player, which was like, we can't have this in 1929. This won't do. And then he just kind of, he grabs them and he pulls them back through time, back to their original timeline.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the premise of the story. And there's this whole idea too in it that you should, if you encounter yourself in the past, if you touch each other,
it's the poly exclusion principle.
The poly exclusion?
Yeah, I am cribbing this from How Did This Get Made? But
okay, which is
that the same object
cannot
can't
occupy
the same space at the
right.
same time, or some sort of.
Right. But the special effects that they use is great.
Yeah,
yeah, they just kind of all get torn apart like lava lamps, like goopy. It's watch Time Cop, man. Just watch it.
I have to go back and watch Time Cop.
It's such a good movie. Yeah. It's worth it for Van Damme's mullet alone.
His grief mullet.
Grief mullet?
Because his wife has died, so he grows a mullet.
As one does.
As one does. You just cutting the back of your hair is just too painful at that point. She used to do it for you.
He's telling women to stay away.
Yeah, it's right. He's been hurt, and he can't go back there. Okay, so before we went on break here, we were talking about the genesis of your webcomic.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something? You drew breath.
Yes, I do that from time to time.
Okay, so film school.
Yep.
A little bit of filmmaking, experimenting with that. And
very little.
And then during the storyboarding process, you stumble upon the comic idea. How does this happen?
Photoshop, basically. I got like a laptop, and I had Photoshop, and I was just manipulating photographs, and always kind of liked the way they looked. And I guess I made a couple of comics. After I finished university, I went right back to my community college, and just for fun, and I was taking like a digital music class, and I was reading the newspaper, and the newspaper had these awful comics in it. And I wrote the newspaper and said, if you need somebody to make comics, I'll do it. And the guy said, I'm the editor, And right now I have to make the comics. So please,
Okay, that's why they
please
suck.
make the comics for me. And so I made a couple of comics, and then they brought me on staff. And because I was on staff, I had to like have a certain amount of hours. And my digital music professor said, you should apply for this scholarship. So I did, and I got it. So now I'm going to school for music, but it's free, and I'm getting paid by the paper to make comics. And then the newspaper sent me to New York, and I just thought this was awesome. And then the Kansas City newspaper published some of my comics, and I was like, it's all happening.
It's all coming together.
And that was 2005. And there was a big, long drought before the next good thing happened.
Okay. And because just you stopped doing it, or?
No, just because that's how it works.
Okay.
Like 2012, I got my next email where somebody was like, here's money.
Okay. And what kind of things did you produce, like, when you first started doing the newspaper comics?
3 panels. Like, I tried to work in 3 panels because I thought that there was like a similarity between a 3-act screenplay and a 3-panel joke. So that like my thought process was the first panel is the setup, the premise. The second one was it complicated the premise, and the third one paid it off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked within these 3 panels pretty deliberately. And like I said, the newspaper printed me, and I won like some sort of a minor award. So I kind of was being encouraged to continue externally. And then 2007, I moved abroad. Things slowed down. I had some good success on the website DeviantArt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, way back in the day. And that was encouraging. And then when I moved abroad, my production slowed down a little bit because life happened.
Sure.
And then 2012, I got an email from a company called Comic Panda at the time. That's what they were known as. And
Now Board Panda?
No, now they are called Tapastic.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they changed their name to Topis.io, but I refuse to call them that.
Okay. So they'd seen your stuff, and they're like, hey, are you still working? What are you doing?
Yeah, they said, we are starting a website. We would like some content for like opening day. And I said, all right. I thought about it. I was like, I have nothing to lose. So I gave them like 12 comics, and then the website opened, and they said, we'd like more comics. And I said, I can't agree to that for nothing. And then they gave me like $1,200, and that was like my first paycheck for comics, and I was pretty over the moon. So I worked for them for like 3 years, kind of. Worked for it, and I didn't get paid ever again. But it was that website has continued to be pretty important in my story, because I think the job I have now came from one employee from that company moved to the company I now work for. So when that company opened up, I got another email. So basically, every time a comics company opens up somewhere in the world, I get an email.
That's pretty nice.
I'm the only guy who does what I do.
Uh-huh. It's true. It's very niche. I mean, there's a small community, I think, right, of webcomic, short form comic.
Gag strips?
Yeah. Is that what they're called?
That's what I call them. There is a community, and so I have a podcast, and I specialize in the gag strip people. There's a million people making comics on the internet right now, but with gag strips, there's less. I mean, it's probably the most overrepresented genre in the West, but globally, it's not like the number one thing.
Like, it's not mainstream.
No, I mean, out in Asia, stories are really the thing that lights everybody up. Like good, long stories with plots and characters and all sorts of things. Like
manga
that.
And stuff like that? Or?
Like manga.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the short form gives you, it's very well suited for social media as well, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So you have I was on your Instagram, it works super well on Instagram.
Thank you. I agree. I've only had, my Instagram's only really been turned on for about a week now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Last Thursday a thing happened. It was pretty great. But Instagram's a great place to read comics because they have this slide feature, in my opinion.
They never actually have done that. I'm going to do this now. I'm always looking for content on Instagram because I'm still not sure I understand the medium, but so far the people I'm following have great dialogue or text below their picture, and there's a cool story, bro, kind of.
Yeah, that's like a Tumblr thing.
Is it?
Yeah, like a setup, and then the punchline's an image, or vice versa.
Right.
That's a real Tumblr sort of setup.
Mm-hmm. So Comics on Instagram. Okay, I'm going to check that out. So the podcast, where does that come in?
2 years ago, I went to my first convention, and afterwards I was really bummed out. And I told a friend of mine whose name is Min Christensen. She's a wonderful Danish cartoonist or / illustrator. And I said I was really bummed out. And she said, why not start a podcast? And I thought for a really long time, well, what would I do if I had a podcast? Before realizing there's one thing that I know maybe better. I'm actually pretty connected because I've been doing this for like 10 years. Like I wrote a list of people who I thought would say yes if I asked them. And then I started to ask them. And so I started a webcomics podcast.
Okay, that's cool. So, yeah, I guess I'm still not sure how, like, what made you settle on the formula? Like, what did that just sort of lead there, or how did you come up with the formula?
What's the formula?
Like, in terms of the way that you write your webcomic, like, what's the approach? It's just you get an idea?
These days, I mean, I have like 100 ideas written down, and it's because
okay, so you write them down first.
Just the idea could be like tall boy. Like the idea is not so refined.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a starting place or an ending place. And it's a thing that I think is probably like a beautiful thing. Like I like objects a lot. So I write down these germs, these seeds of an idea. And because I have a deadline, I have to go to the list and then kind of put something down. These days, I really try to work 6 panels. But thanks to Instagram, I'm thinking of moving that up to 9 panels again.
Okay.
Instagram,
cool.
you can do up to 9 panels.
How did you discover his work?
I think I saw you for the first time on Imager.
Yeah, last Monday, I had a really big day.
You got picked up by like Bored Panda or one of these guys?
That was last Tuesday. Yeah, that was the #1 thing on Imager on August 31st. And is that right? No,
that's
sorry.
huge.
Yeah, July 31st. What month is this?
Yeah.
July 31st. The last day of
31st.
July
Yeah.
is Monday. And it was the #1 post on Imager that day. And then the next day, Bored Panda did a thing. And then it's actually still happening. Like, it's just ricocheting around the interwebs.
Right.
It's nice because I've labored under the idea that, like, my comics were unrelatable for the longest time. And so the idea that, like, I think we
have that feeling about this podcast.
Right.
Go on.
It's a thing. I think we just passed the tipping point. One of the things people needed to see was to not see one comic. They needed to see 14 all at once to get it.
Which is how they're popping up online, right?
It has to be like that.
15 hilarious.
Yeah, Bored Panda, I think, did 10 plus, which was actually 40. Then their article is called like 10 plus, surprisingly funny.
Surprisingly
like
funny.
Unexpectedly good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so seeing them in bulk makes it easier to get the running gag. If you ever only saw one, I think you would be confused.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. In itself, you might, because there's a bit of a story to it.
There's a learning curve, I would say.
Well, there's this idea that it's always you, right?
Yeah.
With yourself.
Well,
or many selves.
I don't think of them as me at all.
Okay.
There are guys, and they do look exactly like me, but none of them are me.
Okay. So they're what? They're a representation of like the...
When I write a joke, it's just like a guy walks into a bar. You know?
Okay.
It's a nondescript. It's a placeholder. They have been of indeterminate gender on occasion. I think I've played with age a little bit, but like there's no agenda here.
Which is kind of, it's brilliant because the stories in these webcomics kind of, the relatability of the situation or the message that is one that what you pick up on, it is a story. It's like a human thing. It's a human idea, right? I'm trying to think of one, the social media one where, was it somebody like the guy like comments, the guy like posts something and then he puts on like this hazmat suit.
I love that. There's actually a very long story about that, but it's a true story.
Okay.
In January, I did a solid month of Trump comics, because this was to recognize the inauguration on January 20th. And during that time, my audience had to come to terms with what I was doing. I'm just making comics, but like at first they're like, ha, ha, ha. And then they're like, okay, we get it. And because there's a lag between when I publish something and when they see it, by the time they're upset with me, it's too late.
Right.
We're in it, yeah. And Islamophobes showed up to my page, and
They tried to claim you, or
no. They tried to defend Trump, and
Okay.
my belief was that this person is like maybe in Belgium or something. But after this whole period of Trump comics, I made the final comic was about having done political comics and dealing with the comment section. And what I was so happy with is that comic about being done with it, about the comment section, that really connected with people.
and that's what that was, the hazmat
Yeah.
one?
This
Okay.
was, there's a, yeah. It was just really rewarding because that was like a very true thing that I had felt and that I had said and that people liked. And that doesn't happen to me every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So-
a pretty common sentiment too. Like anybody who's putting out any content basically doesn't read the comments, right?
I do.
Yeah.
And I respond to them.
All
This
of
has
it?
been a principle of mine since 2005.
Really?
To read comments and respond to them. And if you go to Reddit or if you go to even, I nuked my DeviantArt account for the most part, but if you go to Webtoon, I interact with my fans. I treat them as, students, And so if you ask a question, if you have a comment, I won't let it go. I don't ignore you unless it's a really meaningless comment. Like if you just say like, ha ha ha, lol. I have nothing to say. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
But if you say, like, I disagree with this, then I will say, well, okay, I know why I said what I said, and now I'd like to know why you said what you said. And that's what happened with this one individual whose username is Surface of the Sun, and they never divulged where they live, their age, their educational background, anything, which I find to be relevant. If you're going to have an opinion, if you're afraid of terrorism and you live in Alaska, that is different than if you live in Jerusalem. So to me, it was very appropriate to ask this person, like, well, where are you from? Tell me, you don't have to tell me your name. I'm not
What's
really...
your experience?
Yeah. I'm
What was
going
this
to meet
pers-
you halfway.
What was this person's like major gripe?
They love Trump because they hate Islamic terrorism
Okay, they see him as a defender.
of Trump.
Oh, they see him as like a champion of pushing
Anti-Islam.
back the Islamic
Yes.
plague, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I made a great comic, too, that was also pretty popular about you're more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to be killed by terrorism. So it's like, if you want to get into the numbers, I said terrorism is real. It's very scary, but it's very rare. So, like, you're justified in your fear, but you should understand that what you are is afraid.
Yeah.
Nothing more. And if you just say to me, like, hey, I'm just scared of terrorism, say, well, it's
That's
terrific.
That's a legitimate fear.
Yeah,
but-
it's right there in the word. And if you say you live in Belgium, which is where I think this person, I do think that they were like a German, possibly French. English was not their first language. They once used the expression "a Thanksgiving chicken."
That's dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So just a troll.
And you responded by trying to make them see your point of view, or
I asked them to send me a private email,
okay,
and they refused.
like let's talk, and
Yep.
they didn't want.
Well, because I said I can't tell if you are being sincere. If you are sincere, I feel like you would discuss this in private, and they refused. So I said, well, I still can't tell if you're being sincere or not.
Therefore,
Yeah. So perhaps you're
moving on.
Yeah. Maybe you're being insincere. Maybe you're doing this just for attention. Maybe you want to score points because they were rude frequently. It's like if you're only interested in doing this when there's an audience, then I think that's what you're after is you're trying to score points.
Virtue signaling or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think a person who is sincere will hold the same beliefs in private. So I invited them to a private conversation, which they repeatedly refused
That's
to
very
have.
telling.
Yeah, to me.
And what was the refusal? Was silence, or were there's like I don't have time?
Oh, no. They just said, no, I'm not going to do that.
No reason.
No.
Okay,
You're not worth it.
it's like your next door neighbor.
No, I think that they were doing exactly what they wanted to do.
Sure.
And I proposed to do something which had no value because what they wanted was to score points in public.
Right. They wanted to attack something
Something.
big, and yeah, I think I remember doing that one time. my first experience trolling back in the message board days.
Yeah.
I never really I didn't have any interest in trolling, but I used to occasionally get really upset about stupid things, and I would write a direct message to the person who I thought was responsible. And one of those times was Limp Bizkit.
You wrote a direct message to Limp
Fred,
Bizkit
to Fred Durst,
and said, "Please stop."
I told him
Everything. Just
this
stop it.
album is a piece of shit, and what you're doing is pathetic, and I can't believe that you're trying to get away with this. It was this album they put out after their glory years,
Yeah.
which was like an attempt at
Guessing
being
it was
Rage
like
Against the Machine.
chocolate water.
No,
No?
not the hot dog water one. No, this was The Undeniable Truth or something. They released this fucking album
Was
with like
Martin Van Winkle present?
possibly, but the album cover is like it's got that like Soviet propaganda sort of kitsch thing going.
Yeah, super in.
And the entire album literally is like a Rage
Rage.
Against the Machine, but with Fred Durst yelling over it. And I was so upset because I was so into Rage. I was like, fuck you, dude. This is bullshit. You think we didn't notice?
Did he write back?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Because you took the time to write in private, that means you actually feel that way.
Right.
So he wrote back to say, "Hey, man,
Yeah, he gave me one of those like,
Whatev.
everyone's
like-
entitled to their opinion.
it's just like your opinion, man."
we just, we try to do the best whenever we go out there. And thanks for listening.
He's
And
right. That's
That's kind of the best response.
right.
Because I lived that years later with the project that I made where there were some controversial aspects to it. And whenever somebody would make a similar comment, like, this is bullshit, your project's bullshit, I'd be like, thanks for watching.
Yeah. I always thank people. I have this catchphrase, "Thanks for reading."
Yeah. Still got your view. Still got your click, bro. So thanks. But if someone had a legitimate gripe, I think I'd do what you would do. I'd be like, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah. Right after the election, I also felt it was possible to convince people.
Right.
Sorry, couldn't get through that one. I have since changed my mind. I've crawled back into the bubble, but I'm of the opinion that you should be able to converse with people that you disagree with.
Absolutely.
And that hasn't gone so well. It just hasn't.
Right.
I've lost friends and I've lost family over this goddamn president.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, you're American. We forget that makes a difference.
I mean, if you guys aren't paying attention, it's caught on in Canada. There's a whole pro-Trump movement, like a get him out. Trudeau's a failure because he's letting Haitians in sort of thing going on right now.
Yeah,
Right.
there is. I don't think it's as common that we lose friends and family, though. Not yet, anyways. It's
Sure.
probably coming.
You have more parties. That'll help.
Yeah,
a
exactly.
little bit. But
it allows you to be like, don't blame me. I voted for green.
right.
Yeah.
The Rhinoceros Party, which is a party.
The Republicans in name only, rhinos.
I don't know what they're called. There's a party of for the annexation of Canada in the United States.
It's a
apparently.
good policy, actually.
Is it?
If Trump were a genius, he would form North America, the country, which is Mexico and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's a border you could defend, the one between Mexico and South America.
Right.
A lot of real estate down there. Like, Mexico is an awesome land deal. Think of all the Americans would move down and set up like just resort after resort. It would just be beautiful, ruin that country. But then a lot of people would move north for work, and Canadians can move anywhere they fucking want to. And we'd all have because both of those countries have socialized healthcare.
Right.
It would be, and we would have as many people as say like the European Union's like 742 million people. I think you guys are 33. I'm going to say Mexico's probably 100. Just going to guess
Just
that.
throw a number out there.
150, I don't know.
Sounds true.
But like, okay, so yeah, we would just be a better economic. We'd also have the economy of the United States. Like,
Yeah.
the idea that immigrants are bad for an economy is false. False.
Yes, I do agree with that. I don't want to go too far into I don't like forced diversity either and forced
All right.
multiculturalism. I find
Well,
there's
you're the
big problems.
Canadian.
Yeah.
You
Sort of.
guys, that's kind of your deal.
Yeah.
In America, we force integration by not having a social safety net.
Okay. Okay. Explain that.
In France, they have a very generous welfare state,
Yeah.
wherein if you, like the Muslim communities there tend to be very ghettoized because you don't have to work. In America, you do have to work, and that's where people meet people of different backgrounds, is at work. So when you don't have that safety net, people integrate. Yeah.
I never looked at it that way. It's an interesting point of view.
Well, there's some economics behind it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so before we get sidetracked here.
Yeah. Bernie 2020.
Bernie 2020. You think Bernie would have done a good job?
Would have done a good job? No, I think that we would have seen the exact same Republican agenda as under the Barack years. So, like, there would have just been stonewalling, because that's all they know how to do right now.
Yeah.
They don't know how to govern.
They just block each other.
We're seeing them not know how to govern right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they probably want to repeal the estate tax. That's
very likely
the only thing they've got left, because they can't touch healthcare. Yeah. Anyways, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to come back a little bit to your interactions with your audience.
Yeah.
That must take up a significant amount of time, seeing as you have a pretty big following.
I wouldn't say I have a pretty big following. Over the last week, I have been consumed with all sorts of messages. I got like hundreds of friend requests on Facebook, like not like messages, but just people asking to be my friend.
It's weird, right?
It is confusing. I'm not sure why they did that, but I also got people following me on Facebook, not like my comics, but me.
Mm-hmm. I think I understand what that is. I think, especially for millennials and stuff like that, I think they're adding you to their world.
Yeah. And I'm cool with that.
That's kind of a flattering thing.
I'm actually now, I realized, I was like, I can't make shitty comics anymore. People are actually watching now.
No, don't fall into that trap.
I'm going to start releasing some shitty comics on purpose.
Okay.
I want to tell people, like, lower your expectations. This is what it's going to be
It's just going to, don't try to control. It's going to backfire.
I am hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell my friend Jose, I make two kinds of comics. I make comics and good comics. And that's the truth, is like, for me, 1 out of 10 is like a hit. And I think that's fair. I compete with my friends. They seem to be these superstars who like knock it out of the park every time. And I'm not that. I don't feel bad about that. But only recently have people been paying attention. So now there's this weird sort of obligation to try to be good.
But I mean, that's not, I mean, I understand the impulse, but you understand also that
I'm not going to change what I do.
What people connected to, it was your way of working.
And that's why I'm happy, because they came to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for the longest time, to get an audience, I'd have to move to them.
Pay for it, or...
Well, no. What I meant was make content, pander. To try to figure out, what do people like to see and make it? And I've never done that. I think of what I would like to say, which is sometimes important, sometimes stupid. And that's how jokes work, I think. You make stupid, they're all observations, right? Sometimes it's like, gosh, I'm scrambling to think of one of my own jokes.
I'll do one of mine then.
Yeah, okay.
I do a joke about a time capsule they found in Poland last year, I think, and it was a Nazi time capsule, and there was all this academia talking about like what were the contents, and there was supposed to be a film reel in there, and there were 2 copies of Mein Kampf, and the whole time this big debate is going on. I'm like, were the Nazis worried we would forget them? And is that why they put, like, why would they need time capsules, right? And that's kind of just issued from a joke, from a news story, because while everyone was talking about the contents and the historical value, all I could think about was why would you put a time capsule in Poland if you're a Nazi? How could you possibly think that they would forget what you did there and what you were about and all this other stuff? And then I go off on it, but it's an observation.
Well, you know what the Germans called Poland at that time, right?
Germany?
Yeah.
I didn't know the punchline. I just that's what they called it. But what I'm saying is the idea of Nazis and then bearing time capsules to me is hilarious.
It is kind of funny.
In a horrific way.
It's a little dark.
Yeah, and the fact that there were 2 copies of Mein Kampf, just to make sure.
Yeah.
That
well, one's for lending to a friend.
Exactly. Oh, no, sorry, my brother. Get you. Oh,
that's a really good German impression.
Is it? Thank you. I've studied it. I worked on it for a long time.
You draw some pretty interesting comparisons between webcomics and stand-up comedy, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
I think I heard you talking about that a bit.
I think of us as sit-down comics.
Yeah.
We all try to write jokes. I like what comedians do because they go up on stage and tell them, and there's an immediate reaction. and then they use that to inform their next time. We don't have that luxury as comic artists. We're kind of supposed to get it right our first time, and I think that's terribly unfair. So I'd like to kind of bring a little bit more stand-up comedy into the comics world, if at all possible.
But to be fair, I mean, when you create a comic, and if it's a hit, like you were saying earlier, it does kind of inform the next ones, right? There's a thread.
But it's like if you were then to say, okay, so my pizza joke worked, should I do more pizza jokes? That's pandering.
Right. But I mean, the next time you do a food joke, or the next
every time, like food is super popular.
Yeah,
I don't even get it.
Is it really?
Of course,
it's
that makes sense.
relatable.
Cats, food.
Yeah.
Cat food. Yeah, these things are just very.
People like it. Like
they're everywhere. It's kind of something that everybody needs.
I could write a list of jokes right now that's like hot dog, hamburger, burrito, taco. These are all good joke ideas.
Like if someone were like, I gotta get his material. We're gonna take what I don't know what he's doing, but we want it. And they like break into your house and they grab your book and you run. We got it. That's it. We're gonna be millionaires. And they open it. They're like hamburger, taco.
It's the stupidest
burrito.
list in the world.
What the fuck is this? I told you, bring me his notes. Those are his notes, bro. It says top jokes for this year, and it's just words. I don't understand what's in there. That's great. Okay, so do you ever feel the need to follow, I guess, news stories or trends?
I don't feel the need to. I listen to podcasts the entire time I work. So, like I said, I listen to NPR Politics. I listen to Planet Money.
I don't know Planet Money. I guess it's economics thing?
Yeah, it is an economics podcast.
I guess.
Economics is a very fascinating way to look at the world. And in some subconscious way, it always soaks in. The Trump jokes were so easy to write.
Yeah. Too easy, some would say.
Yeah, well, he embodies like a lot of Looney Tunes characters. Like he's like a serial rapist like Pepe Le Pew, and he's very vain like Daffy Duck, and he flies off the handle like Yosemite Sam.
Yeah.
He's just a lot of things. He's the nth degree of whatever quality he is. So they were easy to write. They were fun. I got to be angry for a little bit. But what bummed me out is that my audience was kind of like, all right, we think you're being unkind. Like you're being unkind to the most powerful person in the world. It's like, well, you know what? If he's upset about this, let's have him down.
Let's come on down.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like somehow you're punching down to the president?
People acted, well, they felt like he's a symbol of their beliefs or people they know. Like you're beating up my uncle or my brother or somebody.
Like I'm not religious, but my grandma is, and what you're doing is disrespectful.
That's what it felt like.
What do you think of the notion, because this was floated as kind of an idea by some journalists during as the comedy kind of put both of its hooks into the Trump train and kind of like really like the late night people,
They never got ahead of him though.
No, they can't. It's impossible. But there was this idea by a lot of foreign journalists actually who tend to be a lot less impressed by that kind of stuff, who said that making fun of him is kind of harmful to combating him because it enters him into the realm. It makes him this kind of comedic character and this comedic storyline. And in the meantime, people are congratulating themselves for all the clever jokes about him, but we're not actually opposing him in any.
I see the point. I would have to think more about that. I think that there are things that have to be said, and if comedy is your avenue, then that's how you have to say it. But what you said, I can see how you're reducing him, and you're also making him more palatable. It's almost is more excusable.
You're almost pulling him into the realm of acceptability. Yeah.
Yeah, like think of Will Ferrell's Bush.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he made him lovable.
Kinda.
He made Bush
when
kind
we
of
remember
lovable.
Bush, we remember Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but there is definitely I mean, I see both sides of this because especially Americans are very, in my view, American culture, like comedy is its chief therapeutic device. And anything that's really tough to chew on enters comedy very quickly because that's kind of a workshop where like Americans seem to sort of try to work out. I think humans do that anyway.
Yeah,
but American culture, comic books and comedy, I feel are really, and movies of course, are really like this place where you can they can take it apart and study it and realize
it's a safe place to talk about uncomfortable topics for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I do see I do see that point of view of that we could lull ourselves into a false sense of having defeated him by mocking him and ridiculing him at every turn. Be like, ha, there, take that, asshole. We're done here. And then well, we haven't actually done anything. He's still president and possibly firing nukes very soon at...
You're just continuing to underestimate his pull.
Yeah, you're not actually just going, hang on, let's stop fucking laughing and march on the White House and demand that he step down or whatever it is that would be a credible action. I'm not even sure that would be the right way to combat him, but
no,
I guess maybe, I don't know.
Nobody knows what to do right now. That's the sad thing.
Give him
is
more
all
rope.
of the people that you thought had power revealed to have none.
Or that they're cowards.
Well, those are the people who should stop him is the Republican Party.
Yeah. That's the best comment I've heard.
The vote to impeach should be 51-0, all Republicans. Every Democrat abstains so that it's 100% clear that the people who brought us this mess are finishing it.
Like we're turning off the tap,
Yep.
Cut the lights.
Then, frankly, every single one of them should resign in secession so that we don't have a President Pence or a President Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
They should all apologize and say, we've made a terrible mistake. We showed terrible judgment.
We're going back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we claim to be the party of moral values. We screwed up, and we want to remain relevant in American life. So we're just gonna hand the ball off until we're better.
Yeah, that's the crazy part of this whole thing is Republicans, all cynicism aside, are the morality party.
Yeah,
and for them to
they brought us a man who's been married 3 times. He he started dating his current wife while he was still married.
Yeah.
He's a man with shady business practices who never released his taxes. So we don't know to what extent, he is compromised by weird interests all around the world.
He's a New York businessman.
He bragged about sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
And the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. That's...
There's nothing Republican about him. Zero.
No.
Nothing,
no, he's not
barely
Republican.
anything Democratic.
He may have a couple of liberal points of view in that, I don't think he particularly cares what gay people do.
Right.
I don't think he has conviction.
About anything, really.
Yeah. So I think, honestly, if the Democrats manage to take the House and the Senate in 2018, they could just start cleaning up because he would sign everything because all he wants to be is liked.
That's true.
So, he could become the greatest American president assuming that, the right people are writing the legislation which he is signing because he can do anything he wants to. He has proven that. Unlike any American president, he is beholden to no interests because he has no convictions. He's a blank slate.
It's almost like if there hadn't been such a backlash against the Democrats and Hillary specifically, if she hadn't been so fucking unlikable, he could have almost been ran as a Democrat or independent.
Sure.
And espoused a bunch of, I'd be we want this. Cool, you got it. But the Republicans are the only ones that actually got behind him. And
well, if you want to win the American presidency, it requires less votes to win as a Republican first.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. Yes.
I did not know that.
It requires 3 million less.
That's crazy.
But to defend Hillary briefly, she was not a good politician. But how many elections had she ever won prior to this? Do you know?
In terms of
as her entire career as a politician?
0.
Neither of them had ever really sought office. She was the first lady. I'm sorry, it's not 0. She was a senator from New York.
Oh,
that was her only election, and that was pretty much handed to her being the ex-first lady. It was also New York.
And then she was a shit show as a Secretary of State, right?
She was the Secretary of State, which is an appointed position. Mm-hmm. So she didn't actually have a lot of experience as a politician. Bill's a politician. That guy knows how to stand on stage and be likable, and he's dead. I don't know where the hell that guy is. But
it's a puppet.
Hillary's not a politician. She's a wonk. She's an administrator. She would have been a good president.
You think so?
She would have perpetuated the status quo.
Yeah, that 100%.
Which seems enviable right now. Trump actually, he and Bernie had the same position on the TPP, which makes me wonder what my position is.
The TPP?
The Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Oh, okay.
He has been in favor of universal healthcare in the past. He's been in favor of gay rights, like all sorts of things. He's held a lot of positions at one point in time that one could agree with. He's championed infrastructure, which if we're done, Barack Obama did as soon as he came into office, but the Republicans were against it.
I think you're giving him too much credit. I think Trump I think Trump just
probably
likes to suck the air out of a room.
Yeah.
At all costs.
He has learned.
He'll listen to people a little bit and be like,
to control the conversation.
I ate some of my poop today. And then, that's an extreme example, but he will just say some crazy shit because it'll stop everything. And it's a brilliant move, right? It's a brilliant, hypnosis move where everybody stops talking the real political talk and the real business. They're like, what did he just say? He said fire and fury. We will respond with fire and fury. What does that mean? I don't know. And everybody, he cancels out all reason and all activity, and everyone's just focused on him. It's like a superpower that he has.
He seems to like to destabilize the conversation. That's for sure. That's a
I feel
strategy.
like he's a poker player. I think that's his personality, and he's the kind of guy who goes all in on the deal. The first hand. Before the flop, he's like all in.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? What has he got? And
we haven't started playing yet.
Exactly.
All in.
Yeah, first hand, and everybody's like, I'm out, and he's like, his thing is he likes information as currency, and he's really good at controlling the conversation. That's his chief talent.
He's also completely immune to, although he takes it very hard. It seems like he takes criticism very, very hard. He's completely immune to anything you may respond to him. Like, even if you fully defeat his argument or whatever he's saying, he'll just be like, oh, okay, whatever, sure. I heard it, whatever. I'm out of here. Peace. He seems completely unaffected by he doesn't seem to be in it in any way to converse. Yeah. That's never been a thing.
Well, but when has there really been a conversation? Like the one-on-ones with reporters? Because the debates are not a debate. I wish they would stop calling them that. It's an interview. It's like a sequential interview. And now the same question to you. They never challenge each other. They're never required to present facts.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with that.
Anyway, I just think that's interesting.
We heard the Sam Harris. Do you listen to Waking Up with Sam Harris podcast?
Sorry.
Great podcast. The Dilbert guy, the guy who does Dilbert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Scott Adams.
Scott Adams, that's it.
Yeah.
Very interesting interview.
Yeah, because
he's a nut now.
Is he?
He is, but a really...
When you used the word hypnotist earlier, I was wondering if you had been following Scott Adams.
He's into that, yeah. But his way of doing it... Anyway, sorry, didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, yeah, he's an expert in that kind of hypose and
expert
persuasion.
Is a strong word.
Well, that's what he
expert in
claims
hypnosis?
to be. Yeah.
I'm an expert in unicorns.
Well, an expert in hypnosis pretty much means you're about... You just haven't broken any laws yet, but you're about... Might be breaking some rules.
Maybe I raped a woman. Just saying, I'm a hypnotist.
So Sam Harris...
Yeah.
Sam Harris was accused of having an echo chamber on his podcast because he is offended to his core by Trump's existence, right? You couldn't have a more opposite person to Sam Harris than Trump.
And Harris is often accused of being kind of robotic and not showing any humanity or emotion. So to hear him be angry at Trump, you're like, wow, Trump got something out of this super logical neuroscience guy, and he's ranting, right?
Yeah, no, if you are a logic-based individual, listening to Trump speak will frustrate you.
Yeah, you've met your nemesis.
Instead of playing him ever speak, it's better to have a person read what he says.
Yeah.
Because it falls apart immediately. Right. It sounds like a person sputtering, a person who doesn't know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Trump manages to not know what he's talking about and sound like he's saying a cogent thought.
Right.
That is one of his gifts.
But it wasn't always like that.
Luxurious head of hair he's got.
I love it. It's real hair.
It wasn't always like that either. He didn't always speak that way. If you listen to something from 20 years ago, it's
77 years old?
74.
74.
Yeah. He's the oldest president.
He's the oldest president.
But yeah, he always had that
And the poorest, too. I'm going to go on record as saying he has the least money.
Yeah, really? You think so?
Yeah, I mean, you know as well as I do. None of us have seen his tax returns. I'm going to say right here, Donald Trump, poorest U.S. president ever. Came into office with no money.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
We would never know.
But we may actually see the records now.
The 2005 one was leaked. That was also leaked on a day where there was something more important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And the 2005 one was 10 years after he lost $990 some million.
Right.
And then he went to Russia for help for like a decade. And I don't know what happened next. I guess he became president.
I think that's how that story ends. No, Adams' whole my assertion of Adams
Is Dilbert is not funny.
I don't think it was ever funny.
Maybe it was not meant to be.
I was surprised to hear that he was kind of a Trump, not supporter, but he admired Trump.
He's more like a Trumpologist
because he doesn't he doesn't vote, right? So he just
I don't know,
he
but
says he doesn't vote.
He doesn't vote,
but he just sits back and from his perch, he's sort of going like, I know what that guy's doing, and it's brilliant
because he's an expert in persuasion and hypnosis.
I feel I get what Scott Adams is saying, is that part of being a writer is being a liar. You know, except for that you admit that what you're saying is all made up.
Right.
What Trump is doing is just lying. He's a liar. And so when Scott Adams says it's persuasion, yeah, that's exactly what it is. He's very good at saying things. I could just end it right there. That people want to hear. I mean, the Republicans had been alluding to all of these things. Nothing that Trump ever said was new. I mean, except for like when he said like, he made all of them clap for the gays when he accepted the nomination. That was like a real fuck you to them.
It was amazing.
Like seriously, when you see that, you're like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
He was telling them who's in charge when he did that. But
I'm going to make you clap for something you guys would never
do not believe in.
Yeah. Let's hear it for the gays.
Yeah, and then they're like, and then they show like Orrin Hatch.
Yeah.
Like clapping for gay rights.
I think that's when he probably did this as a litmus test.
Fucking them up the ass.
That was him checking to see if he's got everyone. Yep.
If
okay.
he's got everyone.
These guys are on board. I'm making them clap for the worst fucking thing that they could possibly like.
Hatred of Mexicans, fear of Muslims, none of that was new. Like all of that started, you could say, with Bush, but like even like Willie Horton in the Reagan era and fear of black crime in the inner cities, you know, like Chicago.
Yeah, there's
all
always,
black people live in Chicago.
Exactly.
It's a disaster. There's more murders there than ever.
Murder, capital. Yeah. No, but I mean that's always. I honestly never got the impression that Trump was racist or anything like. I don't feel like you need to have a certain amount of devotion and
he
insistence.
Actually knows people of race. He's from New York City.
Yeah, but I just don't think he gives a shit.
Yeah, no.
He would have to give a shit about something else than himself long enough to construct and Mexicans are really this. And he doesn't give a fuck. I've never seen such a no fucks given energy in a person. He's kind of interested in like a little kid into what's going on around him at that moment and how he can get all the attention. And then he's got a bunch of these ideas about what makes success and what's powerful. And they're all kind of weird, antiquated 80s stereotypical things.
I think I know how to get into his head.
You think so?
We were talking about how the comedians can't get ahead of the story.
Mm-hmm.
They should just say that he's not president. Try to say, like, how do you know, though? Like, but how do you, like, maybe this is.
What if you never were elected?
No, but what if this is a conspiracy? What if this, like, that's how he thinks, right? Like, this is all fucking made up.
Oh, you mean like insert doubt?
Yeah, insert doubt and just say, like, hey, listen, I mean, if you think you're president.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Well, what if you're not?
Yeah, but I mean, how would you know?
Yeah, there would be.
Because then he would go to bed the night and be like, well, how do you know?
It would sink in.
4 a.m, he would tweet. He's like, not sure if I am president anymore. Kofifi.
I think.
That was my favorite thing ever.
They could.
Fifi.
That's when he's just like,
Kofi.
Fuck it.
I still can't picture him interacting with a smartphone. I still don't see it in my mind. Like, I'm a filmmaker. I can't imagine. I can't see how
Big
he types
pudgy.
and how he knows where to go.
He's a hunter and pecker.
Think so?
Yeah.
Because I feel
he doesn't know about swiping or predictive
I feel
text.
like he's got someone on staff.
Yeah.
And be like, Jean-Paul, I've got one.
And then write Kofifi.
Kofifi. What did you do? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I wrote Kofifi. I just fucked it up. How many dots did you put? Did you put 4 dots? I put 4 dots. Put 4 more. And then a whole new idea preceded by 4 other dots, but it's not really related, but it looks like it is. Just do it. Okay, sir. Whatever you say. It's like, he's got this guy doing. I can't imagine him sitting in the bed actually typing in.
Oh, he's on the toilet.
I can't see
He's
him.
never. You know that he tweets every single time
toilet?
from at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
this
makes
man
sense.
shits like teeny tiny little dried.
He's 74.
Yeah, this is like little rabbit.
He's at that
poops.
age where you have to talk your penis into peeing.
Yeah.
Like, come on, buddy. Let's do it.
Alternately,
Work with me.
maybe not peeing.
Come on, dude. Let's do it.
Why
Let's
do you
do
think Melania doesn't sleep in the same bed with him?
Oh God.
He's incontinent. Also, the poorest American president.
The poorest, according to you.
You want to
sir.
talk about comics? How we
Yeah, man.
doing?
Yeah, we're doing
Let's
good.
finish it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. So why don't you tell us in terms of what else you got? The comic, obviously.
Yeah.
You're exploring the screenwriting thing.
Yeah. Currently a cartoonist, going to ride that wave until it crashes.
Mm-hmm.
It looks more likely now that it's going to sustain itself for a while. But like, this is 12 years.
Yeah.
And like, I grow weary of what I do. Like, I like the visual look. What I really want is someone to say, we like the visual look. Would you like a large sum of money to go make like a graphic novel in this style? And then I would cast it and do costuming and, like not be in it personally.
Would you do like a Scanner Darkly type of film?
Here's the thing. I don't like Scanner Darkly very much. Would I do like a rotoscoped film?
That's kind of more what I meant. Yeah.
Maybe. That is very difficult. The studio that made that was called Flat Blacks Films. They're based out of Austin, Texas. They have a proprietary software called Rotoshop. And if they called me up, I've tweeted at them several times. I'm like, hey.
Yeah, it sounds like a marriage in heaven.
Right. When Waking Life came out, it was made by like thousands of artists. They just let people do like, do a minute.
They're
So,
literally drawing over the film stock.
Yeah. Well, like digitally.
Yeah.
What would I do? I don't know. Right now, I think I'm going to stay static. I don't think animation's the way to go. Animation is the only way to make this any harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Right now, like
somewhat less hard than maybe 10 years ago, but
sure,
still not easy.
But like, I don't have to do sync sound, and I can rewrite dialogue after it's been done. Like, there's so many advantages over film. Like, what I realized by my production technique is that I don't have to have the same two actors on set at the same time. I can shoot your half, and I can shoot the other person's half later. And like, all I have to get is like faces, and I can swap faces from here and there. Like, I can mix and match.
Do you have a favorite genre that?
A film?
Oh yeah, that you'd like to tackle, or is that secondary to the story?
I mean, magical realism. That's a thing. No, I don't have a favorite genre. Like, I don't think in terms of genre. I think
Here's the
stories.
story first.
You ever read Save the Cat?
Yes.
Okay, so in that, Blake Schneider proposes 10 genres of film, and I'm much more inclined to think that way than I am like, like comedy or science fiction. Like, those are terms that we use for consumption, but not for production.
Sure. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of films that don't quite fit anywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like the Groundhog Days,
Waking
and
Life.
Waking Life, and Three Amigos.
Three Amigos. I'm gonna call that a comedy. Period
I
piece.
think it's easy to call a comedy, but I think it's much more. But that's just me.
Groundhog's Day, amazing film.
Yeah, it's discussed in philosophy classes.
Sure, it's a brilliant. It's like, how long do you think he was in there?
Right.
Some people think 10,000 years.
It's an anomaly. He could have been in
No
there.
way to know.
It's like
He could
hell,
still be in there. That's
or like
a theory.
purgatory. Like the idea that he taught himself how to play piano, that takes an amount of time, right? And then he won a woman's heart. That takes an amount of time. So I love, he goes through like the 5 stages of grief. And then when he reaches depression, he tries to kill himself in every single way.
Yeah, every possible way.
And he gives up. That's such a great movie.
It's a deep film. It's
Yeah.
a deep,
And
deep
they
film.
never explain why.
Well, could there be a satisfying answer?
No.
No. Like if you said, because God thought he would learn a lesson.
If it had been a series, they would have been forced into one of those corners.
For sure.
You would have had
Right.
Morgan Freeman.
Space aliens,
Yeah.
something.
Let's not speak of Lost.
It never happened.
No.
It was a dream.
That's what I'm telling
You're
you.
already dead. So
Donald
forth
Trump,
and so forth.
you're not really president.
You've heard it here first. Would you like to plug your social medias?
Sure. I'm on everything. I prefer Instagram a lot. Twitter's recently become interesting. Facebook would be great.
What are the handles?
Just the DaneMen. I think that should lead you there.
Yeah.
I also have a podcast, which is called the Podcomics Webcast, which is a webcomics podcast. And like every 2 weeks, we have a guest. And pretty darn proud of it.
It's great.
Cool, man. I've
I like
listened
it a
to it.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Richard found you, and I was like, this is amazing. How did we not know about this? He's like, well, I knew about this. Now
Well,
you
I
know.
just found out, and I happened to see a comment where he said he moved to Montreal, so that worked out great.
Good job, Richard. Once again, you're keeping this boat afloat.
I do what I can.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I hope you
It's
come
a
back.
pleasure.
It's
Thank
really,
you.
really nice meeting you. And some of the funnest podcasts, that's not a word, are the ones where we kind of just invite somebody that we have no clear contact with
Yep.
or have never met, actually, right? This is us meeting for the first time. And then through the podcast, we just start chatting. And I'm sure you've lived this in your scenario, right? Or do you know everybody that you have on?
No, I mean, I've met some people for the first time on the call, but mine is pretty scripted. Like,
Yeah, it's much more formatted.
I have a, what do you call it? Like an outline that I
Mhm.
follow. And I like the when we get off topic, but yeah, mostly we follow the same pattern every time. I'm thinking of, like, it's 2 years now. I'm starting to think of, like, maybe getting a little weird with the format.
Mhm.
I have, like, a lot of people I'd like to have on if I kind of got beyond cartoonist at some point in time. Like, I'd like to have filmmakers and comedians and animators, but I'm holding it right where it is right now.
Cool, man. Well, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
You know, I'm trying
Sorry, it's like I feel good,
Yeah.
but, like, I'm not that successful.
No, but I said success.
Uh-huh.
In
There has
general.
been some.
Some.
Thank you.
On whatever quantities you believe appropriate, congratulations on that amount.
Okay.
And only that amount of success.
Well, I hope to have more.
And at that point, I will extend the amount of congratulations to encompass the success at that point. At this point, the amount that you have, I congratulate you for it.
Thank you.
And I mean that I hope you keep doing what you're doing, man. I think you're onto something.
Okay. No, I just I have this existential. All artists are like,
Uh-huh.
come on, like you want to quit.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So, like, just now my phone started ringing, and it's like, I was right about to quit, right?
That's how you hear that story a lot.
Edison said, like, what I really learned was 2,000 ways to not make a light bulb.
Right.
So, like, that's the truth. Is like, you never hear about the people who gave up.
Mhm.
You gotta just keep doing the thing.
The message is people give up and success will find you. Right? I think that's what he was. No, that's not what he was saying. All right.
Follow
I think
somebody
so.
else's dreams.
Take someone else's dreams and make them yours. And kill that person. All right, man. It's been
And
a
on
real
that
pleasure.
note,
Cheers. Fire in the hole, man.
All right, thanks.
and home.